The second generation of Freewell Sherpa Filmmaking accessories can level up your mobile photography and videography game. So let's dig deep into this system and see all the benefits and nuances of it. Freewell Sherpa is a very popular system of lenses and filters for iPhones and Samsung Galaxy Ultra series. The base of this system is the Sherpa phone case that I've been using as my daily driver for the last year or so. And it's super sturdy, a bit on the heavy side, and has very strong MagSafe connection. And the camera cutouts are the proprietary lens mounts for Freewell Sherpa lenses. Today we're having a look at this awesome kit that contains two cinemorphic or anamorphic lenses with 1.33x and 1.55x squeeze factor and beautiful gold flares. 18mm wide-angle lens, 70mm telephoto lens, all are made with metal and glass and have superb build quality. And also there is a set of ND filters that can be attached to those lenses: ND8, 16, 32 and 64, a circular polarizing filter and a snow mist 1/4 filter, 4 protective UV filters for each lens, and as an extra item, 90mm macro adapter that fits onto the 70mm telephoto lens. Freewell will sell those items separately or as kits with a nice discount, so you can choose what lens and filters you need for your particular needs. Unfortunately, the iPhone 15 Pro Max Sherpa case wasn't out at the time of recording of this video, so today we'll be testing the Freewell Sherpa Kit with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. As soon as I get the case for 15 Pro Max, I plan on making a cinematic video with all those lenses. But as for now, let's have a look at the technical part of things. What those Sherpa lenses do, how they perform, what about autofocus, sharpness, stabilization, distortion, what different filters do, and etc. Let's start off with the focal length. Here you can see the 0.5x camera on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And now you can see the 1x camera with the 18mm Sherpa wide-angle lens. And here is the regular 1x lens, so you can definitely tell a difference between those focal length. So here are those three side by side. The 1x is the red one, 1x plus 18mm is the blue one, and 0.5x camera has no color. Now I have matched the scale of all three cameras, and you can immediately see how much sharper the 1x camera looks with the 18mm Sherpa lens and without it. So if you need a bit wider image without sacrificing the quality, the 18mm lens is a good choice. So now once again, 1x camera, and now you can see the 1x camera plus 70mm Freewell Sherpa lens, the telephoto one. And here is the 3x camera of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Here are those three side by side, and I would say that 70mm is not the real 70mm lens, it's more like a 2x lens. But still you do get noticeably closer when using the 70mm lens. And here are those three side by side, so if you do shoot in good lighting conditions, the 3x is a better choice if you want the most reach, but if you want like the middle ground, the 70mm is a good option. And here is the 1x camera with 1.33x cinemorphic lens. I also want to say anamorphic, but it's called cinemorphic, and it's de-squeezed. So here you can see the distortion and the field of view. Here is the 1x camera, only with the letterbox, so the black bars on top and bottom of the image. Now let's have a look at 1.55x cinemorphic lens, and you can see that the field of view is even wider and the distortion, the barrel distortion, is a bit bigger. And here is the 0.5x camera with the letterbox. It's almost as wide as 1.55 cinemorphic, but a bit wider, and it doesn't look this cinematic. So now let's have a look at the distortion. Here you can see 0.5x camera, and there is almost zero distortion, as you can tell from this image. Here is the 1x camera with 18mm Sherpa lens. We do have a lot of barrel distortion, and you would want to correct this in post. Here is the 1x lens, just a slight pincushion distortion, nothing too crazy, pretty straight. Here is the 1x camera with 70mm Sherpa lens, and it does have a very strong pincushion distortion. You'll definitely need to correct this in post once again. And here is the 3x camera, the regular one. It almost doesn't have any distortion, maybe a slight pincushion. Now let's have a look at 1x plus 133x cinemorphic lens, and it does have a pretty strong barrel distortion, but most anamorphic lenses lovers do prefer barrel distortion instead of a pincushion distortion. And here is the 1x camera with 1.55x cinemorphic lens, even more barrel distortion. And here is the minimum focus and distance comparison. At the left you can see the 3x camera with minimum focus and distance, in the middle 1x camera plus 70mm Sherpa lens minimum focus and distance, and also on the right 70mm Sherpa lens plus 90mm macro adapter from Sherpa. And it does provide you with image really close to what you get with the macro lens on a DSLR, for instance. And yes, the iPhone 14 Pro Max can focus really closely with 0.5x camera, but you do get a very different look, and I much prefer the look on the right. It's more naturally looking. And the cinemorphic lenses with the minimum focusing distance are struggling a lot, so you'd better have at least 1 meter of distance to have more or less sharp image. So now let's talk stabilization. On the left we have 0.5x camera, handheld and Ninja Walk. And on the right, 1x camera and 18mm Sherpa, also Ninja Walk. And as you can tell, the iPhone is struggling with stabilizing this footage with the Freewell Sherpa lens. The same applies to 70mm telephoto lens, because as you can tell, the 3x camera is much steadier than the 1x plus 70mm Freewell Sherpa lens. But keep in mind that it's in good lighting conditions. In lower light, you'll get better results with the 1x camera and stabilizing it in post, because of ghosting and stabilization artifacts on the 3x. And the best decision is to use the 3-axis gimbal with the Freewell Sherpa lenses in your iPhone, especially if you plan on using cinemorphic lenses. My gimbal of choice is Moza Aircross S. It's cheap, it's good enough, really compact, love it. So now let's talk filters. On the left we have no filter, and on the right we have a quarter snow mist filter. We can definitely tell that the contrast is a bit lower and the image doesn't look as over sharpened with a snow mist filter. And also my skin does look much nicer. So if you can't shoot in log, if you don't use iPhone 15 Pro Max, this snow mist filter is a must-have. Here is the circular polarizing filter, and it reduces the reflections like I show you here on the left part of the image. It enhances the sky, if it does have blue color in it, not like right now here in Moscow. And I'm sure guys you do know what a CPL filter does. So here we have an ND32 filter, 1/250 shutter, and now let's remove this filter. The white balance is locked to 5450K. And as we remove the filter and lower the shutter speed, we do get more or less the same image. No tint, no color issues, nothing. The same sharpness, so those ND filters are top-notch, really good glass. But there is one huge problem with the filters. You cannot stack two filters at once. They have inner thread and they are proprietary, so you cannot use two filters at once like the ND16 and the mist filter like I show you here. And it's a huge bummer to me. But what if you want to use your 2x camera, because you can on the iPhone 14 and 15 Pro Max, so here is 1x and here is 2x. So basically now you have two focal length in one, and we still retain the sharpness and the distortion is getting even lower. So here is 1x camera again, so in good lighting conditions, that's a great feature to have. So here's the 2x camera with 70mm Sherpa lens, and it's almost as close as the regular 3x camera. But if you go to 1x, you get a bit wider field of view. So now you have a lot more versatility, and it's great that we do retain the sharpness, at least in video mode. And what about portrait mode? Can you use those lenses from Freewell with the portrait mode? And as you can tell, yeah, you can definitely use your portrait mode and it does work. The same applies to cinematic mode. So here is the 1x camera with 18mm Freewell Sherpa lens, and you get wider cinematic mode if you want to. Don't forget to lower the aperture of the cinematic mode to look more naturally. And here is the regular 1x camera in cinematic mode, so it gets this wide from the same spot. And here's the cinematic mode with 1x camera and 70mm Freewell Sherpa lens. It does look pretty good in my opinion, but the distortion is pretty naughty. You gotta correct it in post. It's very strong. What about cinemorphic lenses? Here is 1.33x cinemorphic in 2x camera mode. And it does work. It's still pretty sharp. And here is the 1x. So you do get two focal length in one with those systems. And right now you're looking at 2x camera plus 1.55x cinemorphic lens, and it's a bit skewed, it wasn't really leveled, that is why the lines are not straight, but still you can use 2x mode with those cinemorphic lenses, and here's the 1x camera mode. In terms of flares performance, here's what you get on 0.5x camera, it's pretty good by the way, and here's what you get with 1x camera and 18mm Freewell Sherpa lens. It does have a pretty big flare, but it's not that different from the 1x camera without any lenses attached, because it does flare a lot as well. Here is the 70mm Freewell Sherpa lens on 1x camera, and it does have a pretty big flare, and also the contrast is getting much lower if you point it directly at the sun. And here is the 3x camera, it also does have a lot of flaring and lowering the contrast. So all in all, the flare performance is nice, and I have no complaints in this term. Let's have a look at the anamorphic flares on 1.33x cinemorphic lens. It does have a pretty strong and saturated flare, and it's really wide as well. And now let's have a look at 1.55x cinemorphic lens. It does have even stronger and more saturated flare, and it's even longer, like throughout the whole frame. I'm not a big fan of this type of flare, so I would prefer 1.33x cinemorphic lens if you were to ask me which one would I buy. And here is an interesting part, the night shots. Here is how it looks on 0.5x camera. You see a lot of noise reduction, the image is smeary, and we have a lot of flares as well. Here is the 1x camera with 18mm Sherpa lens. Yeah, it does have a lot of flares, but the image quality is a ton better. We have not a lot of noise reduction, more sharpness, more detail because we have a bigger sensor. Here it is, the 1x camera without any lenses. It also does flare a lot. Maybe it was a bit smudgy with my fingers, but I did wipe all the lenses before each shot. The 3x camera is not a good choice for shooting in low light. A ton of noise reduction, not a lot of sharpness, a ton of flaring once again, so I would not use the 3x camera at night. And here is the 1x camera with 70mm telephoto Sherpa lens, and it does look a lot better. You can see more detail, less noise reduction. All in all, the image looks much better, so if you want to shoot in low light with those lenses from Sherpa, you do get much better footage than on the 0.5x and 3x lenses. Here's the lens flare from 1x camera and 1.33x cinemorphic. It is a bit brighter and bigger and more saturated than I want, but still maybe you do like this type of flares. Here's the 1.55x cinemorphic lens, and those flares, they're even more pronounced. One more example with 0.5x camera, and you can tell that there is a lot of noise reduction and almost no detail whatsoever. The same shot with 1x camera and 18mm Freewell Sherpa does look a ton better. The only issue I have, but all iPhones do have this issue, is that sensor reflections, those like little points of lights that are bouncing all around. It is really irritating. So here's the 1x camera without any lenses attached. In low light, the 1x camera is the only way to go, guys. So here we have 1x camera and 18mm Sherpa lens with 1/4 snow mist filter. You do have this beautiful glow around the light poles, and all in all, the image does look pretty good in my opinion, except for those irritating and nasty sensor reflections. Now you can see 1x lens with 70mm Freewell Sherpa, and it does look pretty good in my opinion. And now let's switch to 3x camera, and it's... guys, it's horrible. I don't see anything. There is so much noise reduction, noise and all that, so don't use 3x camera at night. One more example of 1x camera and 1.33x cinemorphic lens. It's a bit overwhelming in terms of light leaks and in terms of flares. It's a bit too much, but I think it's impossible to make less flares on this tiny sensor. And now you can see the 1x plus 1.55x cinemorphic lens. It's even bigger in terms of flares, even more irritating, so once again I would prefer 1.33x, especially if you want to film at night. And finally the 1.55x cinemorphic lens and with 1/4 snow mist filter. This image does look pretty good. The sensor reflections just scream, shot with an iPhone, and also the flares are a bit too much. So 1/4 snow mist filter and 1.33x cinemorphic lens can give you pretty good results at night. To conclude, the second generation of Freewell Sherpa filmmaking accessories has improved a lot since the first generation, which I have reviewed almost a year ago, and I'll leave a link down in the description below if you're interested. I love the ability to use the main camera sensor in lower lighting conditions and get in wider or narrower field of view. Also, the cinematic mode and portraits now get a lot more versatile, but remember to correct a very strong distortion in post to get the most naturally looking images. I also really like the snow mist filter, and I do recommend filming with it as often as possible, but it's so sad that we can't combine it with an ND or a CPL filter without using some tape. But all in all, this kit makes me want to go out and create with my iPhone a lot more, and I can't wait to get my iPhone 15 Pro Max case. Smash the like and subscribe buttons if you also want to test those new Freewell Sherpa lenses yourself. Here is a cinematic anamorphic video comparison between Freewell Sherpa cinemorphic lens and a mirrorless camera with a true anamorphic lens. See you in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye.